Hi, everyone. So Monday's meeting is going to be canceled. I'll be traveling, and so I decided to do this video to explain what we're working on in class. To go back, we're finishing up the ink still life project, which we'll be due at the end of the semester. Many of you guys are pretty far along with that, and have made good progress. If for some reason you were not there when I set up the still life and you haven't had a chance to work on this yet, then take 4 to 5 objects from your home, set them up in a arrangement similar to the other still lifes that we've worked on. Take a picture of that. Think about where you're viewing from. Are you viewing from the top? Are you viewing from the bottom, the side? Think about where you want to position the viewer. Think about composition, and then you're going to take a photo of that. Now, from that photo and also from the real life, you can use a graphite pencil to sketch out or to draw out the image that you're going to be painting in with ink. So for this project, it's required to use ink and a brush. If you have a dip pen, you can also use that to do line work. And then if you have things like Micron or other ink pens, you can use those as well. But I do want to see some brush work, and I want to see some some variation in the tone by mixing the ink with water and doing washes and such. So make sure that you're doing that according to those prerequisites. Okay, so after you finish your ink still life, the next project is an ink from a photograph, black and white photograph. From this one, if you want to, you can use the grid method that we used on the white charcoal on the black paper. You don't have to do that, but it is an option if you want to try and get it really proportional. Make sure if you do that, that you use really light marks for the graphite, so that on there you're not leaving huge amounts of graphite that won't be covered up by the ink and won't be erasable. So everything that you do underneath the sort of the first drawing, sketching out, you want to do really lightly. Or if you're going to do gridding, you also want to keep it kind of light so that you can erase that or get rid of that as you go. The photograph itself can be just about anything. It could be a landscape, can be a portrait, can be a dog, a scene of some sort of city scene. Keep in mind that with ink, it's easier to get things that are sort of broken up into shapes than things that are gradients. If it's a gradient that goes from a light gray to a dark gray, with the materials that we have, it's a little bit difficult to do that. So just kind of keep that in mind. And then the way you want to approach it is that you want to start to sketch it out, and then you want to start building up slowly with washes of color. Mix down some ink and some water and brush it on. Let it dry, and build up like 20% gray, 30% gray, 40% gray. And so by the time you get to a near black, you've got 5, 6, 7 different layers. And so there's some complexity that will happen with your dark colors, with your grays, and with your blacks. So you want to make sure that that'll work for you. There aren't a lot of restrictions in terms of what you can do for this one. So it can be something that you find a little bit more personal, a little bit more interesting. I don't want you to work from a drawing, because I want you to figure out, what the tone range is, what the light grays are, mid grays, how to work out the line work. So you want to think of that separately. The way that I like to do it is I like to draw it first with a pencil, and then I like to lay in washes of ink and let those dry. And then I like to come back over that with detail with the dip pen or with a Micron or another lining device. And so that, but you can do the opposite. As long as you let it dry between doing washes or between doing line work, and then the next thing you do, then as long as you're using a permanent ink, which is you're supposed to be using, then you will be fine, and it'll stay put, and you'll be able to layer that up. Now, keep in mind, this media that we're using, the general purpose drawing pad, is not the best drawing pad in the world. It's not really made for water. You're going to get some buckling. That's okay. I'm not going to grade against that. If you want to work with a hot press watercolor paper or cold press watercolor paper in the future to get a little bit better results with that, you can certainly do that, but that's not a requirement at all. We're this is more of a survey class, so we're getting a little bit of a taste of all the different media material. Okay, then the last project is a little bit tricky in that it's pretty open, and what it is it's to take one drawing increment, one little fundamental facet of drawing, line, a shape, a dot, and to build something larger out of that shows a sense of three-dimensionality. And so the example that I showed in class was a mural that I worked with several of the other students on the Montclair Plaza, where we did the San Gabriel Mountains, that were drawn over top of a gradient of color. And it was a scaling up of this particular project. And so some of the artists that I showed that work in this way, one of them is Katie Ann Gilmore, and I wanted to show you a little bit of how she works. So I'm going to share my screen. Is that working? It looks like it might have frozen. Let's see. I'm not getting any action here. It might have. Oh, okay. There we go. It looks like it kicked through. I don't know why it had that pause. Okay, so Katie Ann Gilmore, I showed a little bit of her imagery in class. She's an artist from the LA area who developed this style of painting where she uses these triangles to do various shapes, some portals and some mountainscapes and various natural forms. In this case, she's working on a mountain, and you can see where the sort of the ridges are lighter, means the triangles are a little bit larger, and it allows a little bit more of the white space to come through. Whereas the areas that are shaded a little bit have triangles that are a little bit more dense. So I'm going to play this for you a little bit. So it's just a little clip there, and you can see that the whole thing is built out of triangles. So the fundamental increment for her in this is a triangle, and then how she varies the triangle is how she gets a sense of three-dimensionality in space. Here's another little clip of her working here. You can see that there. Oops, I guess I can't really pause this. Can I pause it? Okay. You can see that there are a couple things. Number one is that some of the ones that she does, some of the drawings that she does are really quite large, and really impressive. The other is that you can see here working with a paint marker on a black surface that you can reverse it, and it also works well for her. Okay, let's see here. The other person I wanted to show you guys, if I can find him, is Daryl Carey, who is an artist who also works with he works with tape. He draws with tape, but what he does is he creates these installations. Installation means that you're essentially creating an environment that somebody can walk within, and he uses this as sort of a drawing technique destabilize the space and to make it feel as though the walls are not flat and the floors are not flattened. And they're really visually interesting. Definitely has a tie-in with op art as well. Okay, so you can see, if you're in class on Wednesday, I did a little demo on the board. I didn't get very far, but it's similar to the way that this is starting out. When it first starts, the first 4, 5, 6, up to 10 lines, you're not really going to notice the three-dimensionality so much because you really need a lot of them to come together. And so in this one, we're talking about the incremental item being a line. So, like I said, it could be a triangle, square, a line, a dot, a circle, any sort of fundamental little shape. You could probably do something interesting out of stars or, fingerprints, or, there are other things that can kind of build up to something larger. But this is another way of working on this. So you can really see there that as it builds, the lines shift just kind of incrementally. Like they go from, you can see down in the bottom right here that it goes from being almost completely flat, and then there's a little angle, little more, and it goes and it keeps going until it's almost like a 90-degree point, and then it starts to smooth itself out again. And that's how you sort of develop these three-dimensional shapes, is the subtle shifting from a repetitive line or system. And so, think about that when you're working on this project of not just jumping, from one thing to the next, but sort of building your way up to it. Building, if you want a wave, build your way up to that wave, starting with sort of like a flat kind of like sort of curve, and then kind of go up and up and up until the point where you have a wave, or you have a corner or an edge or something like that. We'll jump ahead a little bit here. So I think it's pretty incredible what he can do to a space to change the way that we perceive the walls and the floors, to create that three-dimensionality. He's done some where it spills over into the ceiling and the floor, and it really does feel three-dimensional. Okay, so those are the 3 final projects here. And then what we'll do is on Wednesday, I'm going to send you guys a Zoom link. We're going to do a Zoom and a virtual class. So tomorrow, which is Monday, there will be no class in person. And then Wednesday, we will do a Zoom class and we'll go over more content. And then the following week, I'll be back and we'll resume. Now, class ends December 13th. So that is going to be our final, and that's going to be our final critique. So everything needs to be done by the end of that week. And you definitely have to have at least, one of the final projects to show for your critique. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys got that. Okay, so I'm going to send out a link to this video, and then I will also send out a link to the Zoom meeting that we will have on Wednesday, and I will see you guys then.